HR leaders, what's on your mind these days? Is it AI? Is it the economy? The talent market? Remote work? Retention? DEI? Pay transparency? New laws? Our 2024 Workplace Trends Report outlines how HR leaders are thinking about these challenges and what they believe will help their organizations overcome them. Want to find out what they said? Head on over to peoplemanagingpeople.com/Workplace Trends 2024 and download the report to find out.
You know, I don't like receiving or giving feedback. I've asked myself why, and the answer is, well, when I hear the words, I have to give you feedback, I feel defensive. I get nervous. I feel my adrenaline start pumping. You do give feedback to your team? Do you have conversations about performance that is objective? On this podcast, I will dive into the value of feedback and how we may want to think a little bit differently about delivering and receiving feedback. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tim Reitzma, the resident host of People Managing People. Welcome to the podcast. We're people managing people, and we want to lead and manage better. We're owners, founders, entrepreneurs. We're middle managers. We're team leaders. We're managing people, and yes, we do human resources. But we're not HR, at least not in the traditional sense. We're on a mission to help people lead and manage their teams and organizations more effectively. So if you want to lead and manage better, if you want to become a better organizational leader and more effective people manager, then join us. Keep listening to the podcast to find the tips, tricks, and tools you need to recruit, retain, manage, and lead your people and organization more effectively. And while listening to the show, please subscribe and join our mailing list on peoplemanagingpeople.com to stay up to date with all that's going on. Matt Gould, HTI Institute co-founder and co-author of a new book coming out very soon called Leading from Your Heart, The Art of Relationship-Based Leadership. He's been on a few episodes now. I call him a resident guest, so you'll hear a lot more from him. And I just love the wisdom and perspective you bring, Matthew. So welcome, Matthew.
Thanks for having me back, Tim. It's a pleasure to be a resident host? No, you're the resident host. I'm the returning guest, so thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. And but before we get started, can I give you some feedback?
I'd love it. Yes, please.
Well, the feedback I have is around the subject matter of our podcasts, and I keep receiving feedback from listeners on how valuable the words that you bring to our audience are. So it's positive feedback. So thank you. Thank you for your wisdom, your perspective, your examples and illustrations. And I just can't wait to do more podcasts with you.
Thanks, Tim. It takes two to make a thing go right. So
that's right.
Can't have a guest without a host. And great to hear that feedback. Thank you.
Yeah. So, today's topic is about feedback. And when you first, you actually proposed this to me, and I thought about it, and I'll be honest, instantly my shoulders kind of went up, and I started thinking about, okay, well, are we going to just talk about constructive feedback, and is he going to give me feedback? And I don't know. I just have this weird reaction to the word feedback. So let's just define it. What is feedback?
Feedback is a gift. What if we were to define feedback just simply as a gift? Feedback equals gift.
Okay, so it's a gift. So let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, as a father, as a business owner, in relationship with you, I would like to know how I'm doing in those relationships. And as you mentioned, we've written a book, Lead from Your Heart, The Art of Relationship-Based Leadership. To be in relationship with you or my wife or my kids or a business partner or a client or anyone, I need feedback. I need to know, is this working? Is this not working? What do we need more of? What do we need less of? And so to me, as a leader, as a father, being in relationship, I need feedback to understand, how is it going? How am I doing?
Yeah, I was just trying to think of an illustration just in my mind of just going through life, or, raising kids, or in your work, and never receiving an input on how things are going. I feel that, we could think it's going great, but in reality, our definition of great doesn't meet the expectations of the task put in front of us. And so I'm curious. So when I hear feedback, I always go negative right away. And I don't know why. I tried exploring, deep down into my childhood, and I can't figure it out. But when somebody says, "Hey, I've got some feedback for you," is it always constructive, or can it be positive? Like I gave off the beginning, "Hey, I want to give you some feedback. You're doing a great job."
Yeah, I'll answer that this way, Tim. What if you and I were to remove, and our listeners were to remove, the adjective that comes before feedback? So your question around constructive or positive or negative, I need to give you some hard feedback. I need to give you some tough feedback. Or I'm going to, give you some constructive feedback. What if we drop the adjective and just began giving feedback? And at the heart of it, it's this concept of improving. Let's get better together. Before COVID, there was an opportunity to go to concerts. And I'm not sure the last concert you went to. I'm pretty sure it was similar to the experience I had, which was when you get there early, the band is doing a pre-check. There's a sound check. And when there's feedback, actual feedback coming through the mic, they make adjustments. Can you imagine going to your favorite band or your favorite concert, and they didn't do feedback at the beginning? They didn't adjust when they heard the sounds that were coming through the speakers. Can you imagine what that would be like?
Oh, it'd just be miserable. It'd make for a terrible experience, right?
Yeah, it would be so risky. Like, it would just be risky. There'd be so much risk involved. And so to answer your question around, can it be constructive? Can it be positive? What if we just took those adjectives away? And I encourage people, if you're in a business, if you're a leader, if you're a team member, what if we all removed, and I encourage you to remove, any adjective that comes before feedback, and then it's just feedback. It's not charged with anything.
So basically, we're not pre-charging the potential conversation that's going to happen. So we're not, causing someone's shoulders to go up, or somebody to go, "Hey, look at me, look at how maybe great I've been doing." But really just getting to the heart of feedback. "Hey, I got some feedback for you." Mm-hmm. And, even as I say that, I'm going, "Oh, okay. So, chances are it's going to be negative." And maybe it comes up for me because often in my career, if I had feedback, it was around the constructive side. Mm-hmm. "Hey, I've got some feedback for you. This project isn't maybe going the way it should," or, "Hey, I've got some feedback for you. Our sales numbers aren't where they need to be." And so often it equates to the negative. And, I'm making a broad assumption here. Yeah. And, but yeah, what if we started to just kind of rewire our brains to going like feedback is an input, and it could be, it could be constructive. It could be positive. We don't know, but it's an input into, how to continue being awesome, or how to become more awesome at what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it's interesting you say rewire our brains. To me, ego sits in the brain. And so it's negative feedback. I believe that's the ego responding. Oh, it's negative. However, if it was all about improving, growing, and winning, can we improve together? Can we get better together? Can we win together? Can we grow together? I have some feedback. In my heart of hearts, I want the feedback. Mm-hmm. If I would challenge that. If we think it's negative, I'd say that we're listening with our ego. What if we moved into our hearts? And in the heart of hearts, if we have that spirit to improve, to grow, and to win, bring on the feedback. Tim, if you and I are on the same team and I miss a shot, and you say, "Do you want some feedback?" I'm not going to say no.
Yeah.
I'll say, yes, please. Yes, please. And you might say, well, lift your head up or move your foot to the right if we're playing soccer. And I'll say, thanks. And on the next play, I'll try to make an adjustment to the feedback you gave me. I think feedback is just a gift. I don't believe, when you say negative feedback, I don't understand that anymore. It's just feedback.
Yeah. I was talking with a friend a while ago, and he leads a pretty substantial organization, and he is really quick to give feedback. Mm-hmm. And he comes at it from a place of love. I know this guy. He's got one of the biggest hearts I know, and he just sees it as as feedback. Mm-hmm. Hey, I got some feedback on how you did yesterday, or how your message was received. But he also knows that there are people on his team who don't process it the way he does. So, this kind of goes into the next question: is when somebody calls you a jerk or something mean or something, how do you handle that? Knowing that we all process very differently.
How do I handle it personally?
Yeah.
First of all, thank goodness that I'm getting feedback that I'm coming across as a jerk. Because I'll tell you what, if there's no feedback, that is so dangerous. I want to know if it means the person cares. So when someone calls me a jerk, and I've been called that, I will say, tell me more. Like tell me more and tell me more. I want to know. It's not my intention to be a jerk. However, if someone calls me one, I must be coming across that way to them. And so where I go to, Tim, is how I receive that is, hey, tell me more. I must be coming across as a jerk. So I agree that is my impact. It's not my intention. And so how I respond to that is, tell me more. Let me know what I like. Tell me more. Give me some feedback. The you are a jerk is just the headline. It's actually not feedback. It's just the headline. I need to now know, what did I do that is causing them to perceive me as a jerk? I need to know more. You're a jerk is just the headline of the news article. Mm-hmm. I need the actual details in the feedback.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's surface. It's potentially an opinion not based on fact or not based on anything. And so I love what you said. It may be the impact, but it's not the intention. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where it really comes down to. I believe most people in this world mean good, and it's not the intention to cause strife or to upset people. Or if somebody calls you something mean, it's usually rooted in something deeper than that, but it's not the intention. But yet it does have an impact. So I recall an incident early on in my career when somebody came into my office and I could tell that they were, their blood was boiling. They came in, shut the door, and they let me have it. They unleashed. And I wish I could say, thanks, tell me more, but I instantly felt defensive, and I needed to defend my character, and I unleashed back. This person left my office. I sat there. I went for a walk around the block. I came back in, and I apologized for my behavior. I apologized to the people that were around who had to witness that, and I apologized to the person that I had a disagreement with, because it wasn't the right way to handle it. It felt like it at the time when you're just seeing red. So if somebody comes in and has some feedback for you and doesn't say, hey, Matthew, I've got some feedback for you, they come in and unleash. Is it appropriate to respond right away? Is it appropriate to say, thanks for the input? Can you give me a couple minutes so I can gain composure? What's your thoughts on that?
In our book, Lead from Your Heart, Tanya and I write about the 4 relationship cornerstones. And I'm using these on a regular basis. And when we do consulting and coaching and training with our clients, these are proving to be extremely powerful. And I'll just quickly share them with you. So if someone comes in to me steaming, And trust me, it happens. As a father, it happens. In business, it definitely happens. The second cornerstone is called be curious. So I lean into that. I get curious. So I love the expression, when someone comes in and they're furious, get curious. They are infuriated by something you've done or something you're involved with or a circumstance. So rather than get furious back or defensive back, leaning into the cornerstone of when someone's furious, get curious is a really powerful way to sit in feedback. The second cornerstone I lean into a lot is be open to the possibility. It's called be open to possibilities. Be open to the possibility that you caused the anger, something you did. Like, just be open to the possibility that, you did something or you're involved in something that is causing this person to be red-faced and furious. Just be open to that possibility. Hence, where I love to go is, hey, tell me more. And the last, there's 4 cornerstones. The third one I lean into a lot is just commit to what is. Commit to the fact that, Tim, if you're my leader and I've done something or a part of something that's failed or it's just causing you to be so mad, rather than get defensive, I lean into the cornerstone of commit to what is. I'm just going to commit to the fact that you're furious, you're mad, you're coming in to give me some feedback. I'm just going to commit to that. And without being condescending or arrogant or anything, I'm going to say, I'm going to let them let it rip.
Mm-hmm. It's so good. It's I just, I took a pause there because I was thinking of a recent incident with my 6-year-old son who gave me some feedback, and I did not like the feedback that he was giving, and be open to the possibility that I may have caused that anger in him. I feel a little guilty because I did, right? Mm-hmm. And so then we have a choice. We can wallow in that and say, man, I failed. I'm terrible. I failed my 6-year-old son or my team or whoever, or take it as it's a gift. Okay, what can I learn from this? If somebody's giving positive feedback, there's the adjective again, but feedback that is good, it's okay. That's reassuring. We need to hear that. So why are we so often, and again, I'm making a broad assumption, we often focus on things that, hey, here's an opportunity for some improvement versus, hey, this is fantastic. Keep doing more of this. Do you see that in your consulting, in the work that you're doing?
Ask that question one more time.
Yeah, do you see people more focused on that, quote unquote, constructive feedback versus, hey, let me give you a positive input?
Yeah, I see an opportunity in the consulting we do and in businesses and in families and in relationships in general. I see an opportunity for people to listen and engage in feedback, not with their egos. So when your son, I have kids as well, and I can relate to that. We're hurt or we're flattered when we get positive feedback. That's listening with our ego. That's either hurting our ego or fueling our ego. And I see such a great opportunity for us to listen, to improve. Listen to feedback in the spirit of and from your heart to improve. My son Tim, he'll say things like, you're the worst dad ever. And it is his perspective. Feedback is someone's perspective. It doesn't mean it's the truth. To him, it's his truth. I am the worst dad ever. And so my response, it takes muscle. It takes a leadership muscle to say that's just feedback. Okay, he's giving me feedback. That's my son's perspective in the moment. And so when I respond from my heart, I'll say, tell me more. Like I must be the worst dad ever. What makes me the worst dad ever? I need to know. I want to know. My ego doesn't. My ego would lash back. I don't think lashing back is a leadership maneuver. I don't think it contributes to the relationship. I don't think he'll give me feedback in the future. And as I said earlier, to me, that's the most dangerous situation. When there's silence and you're not getting feedback, that is very harmful in the future for relationships, for teams, and for performance. Imagine if we could be leaders and teammates where feedback was just constantly given without the adjective.
Yeah, without the adjective. And I think about, organizations that I've been a part of and I've heard of where, people are afraid. People are afraid to give feedback. And so you talk behind people's backs, right? You start eroding that trust by sitting in the cafeteria or sitting, out for lunch somewhere and just saying, "Oh, can you imagine, or can you believe this person did this or did that?" Instead of confronting it head on and say, "Hey, can I give you some feedback? What you're doing is maybe inappropriate or is hurting the organization, or, is what you're doing is great."
Yeah.
But if we shy away from giving feedback, we shy away from trust. But on the flip side of that is, for some, it's easy to give feedback, but it's not easy to receive feedback. And this is, I think, like you said, is the muscle that we need to train. We need to be able to train ourselves to see it as a gift, that it's somebody's perspective, and how we respond really takes that muscle that you said. We need to exercise that new muscle. And so there's
I have to jump in. I am really confused. I'm really confused. And I hope this is really engaging. I'm confused if people are fearful of feedback, and I'll tell you why. Yeah. Because if we want to improve, if we have a growth mindset, if we want our relationships to thrive, if we want our teams to be incredibly successful, help me understand why we would be fearful of feedback. Like, if that is truly at the heart of hearts, let's get better. I'm confused now at why anyone would be scared of feedback.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get feedback, how do you improve?
Well, yeah, exactly. Right. It's if we're afraid to receive that feedback, how do we grow? How do we know that we're on track, on task, growing ourselves personally and professionally as, spouses, as parents, as wherever you are in life? Without these inputs, it's in my opinion, and we may share this opinion, it's impossible to grow. Sure, you can read 6 books a month on self-leadership and self-improvement, but that's great. Now, if you put them into action and they fall completely flat, wouldn't you want to know about that?
Yeah, and you say fall flat. We all learn to ride a bike. If you know how to ride a bike, you most likely learned by falling flat.
Yeah, I'm trying to teach my 6-year-old son on how to ride a bike, and he has negotiated his way out every time, and so he's going to fall.
Yeah, the feedback from riding your bike hurts. Like, it actually physically hurts. For me, when I was a kid, I'd skin my knee. If I focus on the hurt, I'm not focused on the feedback. If I focus on what am I trying to do? Oh, I'm trying to learn to ride a bike. Then the hurt actually goes away, and I go, oh, that feedback was important. Now I know what I need to adjust. I need to adjust my balance. So I think earlier we talked about constructive and positive. Feedback can hurt. It absolutely can. And that's important if we want to improve. Focus on the improvement and the feedback, not the hurt.
That's a great illustration. And I used to mountain bike quite a bit, and mountain bike, like technical downhill, and as more of a hobby, I'd say a novice at best. But if I was learning a new section that was rocky and steep and technical, you had a couple options. One is to just get off and walk. Or another option would be, hey, I'm going to ride this section, and if I fall, it's going to hurt. And that might be motivation to figure out how to try to do it a different way.
Yeah.
But without it, if we always took that easy line, we think, well, it's just easier, but we're not growing.
We're not growing. We're not going from the blue run to the black run.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not advancing. And, some people can give you feedback, Tim. It's their perspective, and you say thanks, and you don't make the adjustment that they're suggesting. I do a lot of work in sales and inspiring sales teams to thrive. And there's often the sales rep who says, my manager is really hard on me, or my manager is this, or my manager is that. And we don't always have to adjust to the feedback we're given, because it's just that person's perspective. Once again, back to the bike analogy, getting tough feedback. Once there's an adjective, I've got to remove the adjective myself. But for the illustration, for the metaphor, getting tough feedback can inspire incredible changes and significant improvements. And so my hope for listeners, my hope for this podcast is that people drop the adjective, they lean into those cornerstones that I spoke about, and they look at the heart of feedback. The heart of feedback is to improve.
Mm-hmm. And so this kind of leads me into it's been top of mind for me as I've facilitated feedback sessions with clients in consulting, as well as when I was in-house in an organization. And a model that we came across it's called the SBI model, Situation, Behavior, Impact. So basically it's taking the personal out of feedback. And so what are your thoughts on this model? I'm not sure if you're familiar with it or have heard it, but if we make it about the situation, the behavior, and then the impact that it has on the person giving the feedback, what are your thoughts on these different models?
I think it's excellent. I'm familiar with it, and it truly is focusing on the adjustment to be made. So the action you took, your attitude, your behavior, the way you did X, Y, Z, when you focus on the situation and the behavior and the impact, it actually gives someone really clear feedback on what they can twist, what they can tweak, what they can improve on, what they can continue to do, what they can repeat, what they can stop. It's excellent. And feedback is personal. The key is to not take it personally.
Yeah, that's a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, it truly is personal. Tim, I want you to be the best quarterback on the team. I want you to be the best. And so I'm going to give you some feedback. Here was the situation. Here was how you executed it. And here was the impact. This is why the ball was not received by the receiver. So I'm giving you personal feedback. The key is to not take it personally. Like, not to be offended by it, actually be inspired by it.
Yeah, I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier in the podcast, and we were talking about, feedback and the heart of an individual who's giving feedback. And, typically feedback is given because people care. Mm-hmm. And it's not given because they want you to fail. If you're not hearing anything, that's when you should probably get a little nervous. Mm-hmm. But if it's silent and we don't know how we're doing, we're not hearing from people, that's the scary thing. If we're actually hearing the feedback and saying, yeah, I want you to be the best that you can. And so, let's walk through that and let's talk through that. So, I think there's a lot of great content here. And if you're listening or somebody's listening and is going, okay, I need to be giving feedback, maybe we're growing our organization pretty quickly, but we're still, we could be doing more, we could be doing better, or we're on track. What's kind of a final thought that you'd want to share with someone listening?
Yeah, a final thought would be, if you don't care, you won't share. In other words, if our sons, if our teams, as you and I are leaders, if we don't really care about our team, about our families, we won't share the feedback. We won't give the feedback. And so my encouragement to you and my encouragement to me and to everyone listening is share with care. Share because you care. Give feedback in such a way that the person says thank you, even if it's painful, even if it has a little bit of a rub to it. If it's in the spirit of sharing because you care around our mutual improvement, that would be my final takeaway is share with care, share because you care, and be really, really concerned in your relationships and your business if people aren't sharing and aren't giving you feedback, because it means there's a lack of care.
Well, that's fantastic, and I appreciate hearing that. I've always appreciate our conversations, whether they're on podcast or not, because it truly tells me that you care and you care for the people that are around you. So thank you for that, Matthew, and yeah, for our listeners, right? Let's not shy away from feedback, either giving it or receiving it, and share with those that you care about, and help grow your organizations, your teams, and your households.
Tim, one last thing. I have to throw it in there.
Yeah, sure.
If people believe that feedback is a gift, what do you do when you receive a gift? You say thank you. So if feedback truly is a gift, no matter what kind of feedback you're getting, it's just feedback. Imagine an environment, imagine a family, imagine a team where every time feedback was given, the response was, thank you so much.
Wow. I'm going to practice that today, because I'm sure I will be getting feedback from my family throughout the day, and which means that they care. But it also reminds me that I need to control how I receive it and react to it. So, feedback is a gift, and I challenge our listeners and to think about it that way, to receive it as a gift. So, as we close, Matthew, you've got a book coming out. When is it coming out, and where could people find it?
It's coming out at the end of May. It was co-written with Tanya Schechter, and you can find it on Amazon. It will be available on Kindle. And right now, if you go to htiinstitute.com/resources, you can download the first 2 chapters for free.
Wow, that's a great gift to the community, and I have to say I did download it, the first 2 chapters, and I'm almost through it. And it's such a great read, and it's such an easy read and very practical, and so I look forward to reading the rest of the book, and then I'll have you and Tanya on the podcast to do a full episode just focused on that book. So,
oh wow, thank you.
Yeah. So I thank you. And so thank you again for coming on. And for those who are listening, we'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to get your comments. Let us know how we're doing. If there's a topic or subject matter you'd love us to cover, but also if you're wherever you're listening, please give us a rating. Again, that's a source of feedback. We'd love to know what we're doing right and where we could improve. So with that, you can head to peoplemanagingpeople.com to check out the podcast, as well as a whole lot of great content there. And have a great day, everyone. We'll talk to you soon.